All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order, 6:33, please. Adjustments to the agenda.
I have about 3 or 4 different things I want to talk about in just general comments.
Are they under new business or old business?
Wherever it works best. Do something because,
What do we got?
old business.
Okay. And so what would 11.1, what would you like that to be?
General comments about scheduling, this, that, and whatever.
Schedules?
Variety of things, yes.
So you're gonna loop it all into, you just want general comments?
Yes.
Any others?
I have 2 under new business.
First one will be 12.3.
No, 12.2 will be deleted. Bob they did not get all the information that Bob needed in order to present. And the new 12.2 would be consideration to approve the use of contingency per the withdrawal payment to Northport. I have a motion when we get there that the auditor has recommended that we adopt. It's the withdrawal part of the contingency for Northport, $24,120.74 when we get there.
Okay.
I'll explain that.
Any others?
No.
Hearing no one else, motion to accept the agenda as adjusted.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Any recognitions this evening?
No, sir.
Consideration of minutes, regular board meeting, April 12, 2016.
So moved.
Second?
Corrections, errors? All those in favor? Opposed?
No.
One abstention?
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking pretty good to me, I'll vote no.
Consent agenda, we're gonna take these both at once. 6.1, Finance Committee meeting, April 12th, 2016, and Personnel Committee meeting, 2012, April 12th, 2016.
So moved.
Here, a second?
Second?
Discussion, changes, corrections, all those in favor? Thank you, unanimous. Any presentations this evening?
No.
Anybody from the public wish to address the board? Report from the superintendent.
I have a couple things, a lot of it revolving around testing. The MEA testing for grades 3 through 8 was completed before April break, would have been April 14th. I want to announce a tremendous effort was put forth by all the staff, and a special recognition should go to Bob Bradford, Jeff Sear, Mike Fuller for their efforts, because the MEA measured progress this year was done online, and that took a lot of work. So the entire school system should be thanked for that. On Friday, April 15th, the RSU district staff had training on sexual harassment, which is required by the state. It was put on by the Sexual Assault Support Services of Mid-Coast Maine. We had it Friday morning, and then the rest of the day, if it was a full day, that was in service, and some of the hourly workers obviously only came in for that. So that state requirement has been fulfilled. Tomorrow, the MEA science test for grade 11 will be administered, and then 5 and 8 will be doing theirs before the May 6th deadline. SAT testing for juniors was completed on April 12th. Both of those have been handled through the guidance department, so a big thank you to them. that just shows you the number of tests that kids end up doing around school systems now.
Just a question about that, do they facilitate SATs taking them locally, or do they go to a central location and take them?
They take them locally.
Wow,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
they're back to that process. And then the last thing I have, and I'll pass these out, and if you want something to fall asleep to tonight, you can read that. What this is this is the new law, which was passed by the legislature and then signed into law by the governor on April 19th, 2016. This is your proficiency-based diploma, the newest law regarding proficiency-based diploma. It's quite lengthy. Probably the things that I would draw your attention to when you're looking at this would be page 3 through page 4, which now talks about when students will be verified for a proficiency-based diploma, which has now been extended through the year 2024 to 2025. So, we as a school will be looking at that over the next few months to find out where we fall in, because last time when the Searsport District High School put forth their standards, they received a letter from then Acting Commissioner Rochelle told me that Searsport was not at that point yet, so there's now an additional 6 years. So it'll probably be changed again and will outlast a lot of us. And that's my report.
Just a quick
Yep. which
question.
page?
B2 on page 3, it kind of looks like the state is forcing a hand that we've been trying to put out at the Tech Center for a few years now, as far as issuing, they still call them credits, for proficiency, demonstration of proficiency in English arts and stuff like that.
And that is correct, because if you look at B2 on page 3, and having been the director at the Tech Center prior to this, that is exactly what we have been talking about. And when I say we, instructors and directors, is that, first of all programs of study, whether it's auto collision all the way up to welding, has to have an approved program of study that the Department of Ed comes in and approves. The other is the third-party verified national estate industry standard, and I'll use auto collision and auto technology as an example. If you look at the NATEF, which is the third party, developed by ASC, which is the one that if you go into an auto dealer and you go into the service department, you see the ASC technician up on the wall. All of those third-party tests have actually been cross-blocked against the Common Core. So there's a lot of information now there for CTE. So if kids go there, they should be meeting a lot of standards.
It should in turn make it easier for students to attend, because they can get some of their core credits, whether it be a half credit or a full credit, say in mathematics.
Not credits.
Well, they still say credits. that's
Right,
why
it
I-
should be standards.
Right, they
Right.
still say earn 6
Right.
credits, but
Yeah. They would be earning standards now for some math, for some science, because that's part of the third-party testing. It was nice to see that.
anything else?
No, not from me.
Committee reports, the joint meeting for the Tech Center was held 2 Thursdays ago, or 1 Thursday? was it last Thursday? Yeah, last Thursday, to approve no, it was 2 Thursdays ago, to approve the annual budget and adult ed budget. Those passed, with no problem. There was a discussion following the vote on utilization of the tech centers and possibly coming up with a committee to, of all three of the sending districts, for ideas and the future of the tech center. And they put on a great meal, which I believe Percy and Bill attended. I was not able to. And Chris, I assume it was another fabulous
Was,
meal.
yep.
Any other committee reports? Buildings and ground negotiations,
Did not meet.
personnel is not met. Moving on to old business, 11.1. Bill?
I have just some general comments that I want to make. I have two sources of data when I talk about enrollment figures. One is the sheet that Larry Clement put out back on October 14th of 2015. And then the other is Marilyn gave me some information on total enrollment as of 2/12/16. Okay, and so this is where I'm getting my data from, and hopefully it's accurate. I got started thinking about the school board back in 2014-15. We had 4 classes here that had 9 teachers assigned to it, high school classes, with 9 teachers assigned to it with approximately 40 students in the 4 classes. Didn't make any sense to me, didn't understand it. To this day, I still don't understand it, but that's what it was. I do know that one of the things I've talked about a little bit is that Stockton is having trouble paying their bills, and we have to do everything we can to keep dollars down. I'm happy to report in 2015-16, this school year, there are no classes with multiple teachers assigned to it. Huge, huge improvement. And as big of a change that is, in my estimation, we have more changes that we have to make that will be comparable to this first big step that we took. When I started looking at enrollment, and I was using the 2012, or February 12th, 2016 figures, okay. And I noticed one thing right away, grades 9 and 10, 46 kids and 55 kids, 2 huge classes. All the other grades, K through 12, not including 9 and 10, have numbers of 30 to 42 kids in there. So we know that that's a big bump there, those 2 classes, 9 and 10, and eventually they're going to work their way through. Enrollment numbers don't change a lot over the course of a year. They're not wild swings in that. They go up, they go down, kids move in, move out. On 2012-16, the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade had 101 kids in it. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th had 101 kids in it. K, 1 and 2 had 104 kids in it. 3, 4, and 5 had 115 kids in it. And I just arbitrarily picked some numbers. So when looking back at the middle school, the 6, 7, and 8, those numbers are pretty accurate in terms of for the next several years. High school, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now there's where we have 2 of our biggest classes, the 46 and the 55. We have 178 kids in the high school on 2/12/2016. If we look at 5, 6, 7, and 8, the next 4 classes that will be coming up, taking their place over a period of time, 143 kids. Grades 1, 2, 3, and 4, 143 kids. And then grades 3, 4, 5, and 6, 148 kids. So we've had declining enrollment here, But I think we've hit a point where if we look, it's kind of leveled out, especially when the grades 9 and 10 come out of here. I don't know what's coming up the pipe. Prior to pre-K, we don't have numbers for that. But all the indications are that I think we've leveled out at a point we're gonna have some fairly static numbers over the next few years. At least that's what my crystal ball says. On the 10, 14, 15, on Larry's information, grades 3, 4, and 5 had 108 kids. On 2, 12, 16, there were 105 kids. There was a drop there, a little drop in K1 and 2, a little drop in 2, 3, and 4, but nothing significant. So if I were to guess, I would say that and I can't come up with numbers for the K through 5 because I don't know what's coming pre-K. I don't know before that. But I think we can look at the middle school and figure out that 6, 7, and 8, we're going to be somewhere around 105, 110 kids on a yearly basis. And that's important information because that helps us when it comes time for scheduling. We still don't know how many sections we have. We might, don't have that information yet. But I don't need to know that if I know the number of kids that might be there over the course of the next few years. Great information to have. And we have all that information in our enrollment figures. All we have to do is look at the numbers and we can pretty much predict what we're going to have. Class size. K, kindergarten grade 1, 16 to 20, minimum maximum. Second and third grade, 17 to 21. Fourth and fifth grade, 18 to 22. Sixth through eighth grade, 18 through 24. High school, 12 through 24. That was the other thing that I don't understand. Doesn't make any sense to me. Why at high school we're down to 12? We currently, and I'm looking at core classes only. I'm looking at English, math, science, and social studies. We currently have 9 core classes below the minimum of 12 in the high school. I did not include the upper level core classes that fell below 12. There were more. But I didn't include those because I understand upper level classes, you might not get a lot of kids taking them. Okay. We can't keep operating the school where we can have a minimum of 12. And we know we go below the minimum, we just have to, there's steps that we have to take. And if we're going to be cutting costs, we've got to pay attention to that, just as the superintendent paid attention to 4 classes, 9 teachers, and 40 kids. This year, no classes with multiple students, or teachers, multiple teachers. We've got to look at minimum numbers at the high school. And I look at the middle school, 18 to 24, I have no problems with saying at the high school, 18 to 24. I have no problems with that. My experience, 38 years experience, is at the high school level. And that's why I have such a difficult time looking at the 12 through 24. It doesn't make any sense. That wouldn't fly at any of the schools that I worked at. Okay. I don't understand why it applies here. The fact that we can look at enrollment numbers, we don't have to guess how many sections of this are we going to need. We can look at this year's schedule and say, we're going to have similar numbers, We probably should have the same number of sections next year as we have this year. We don't have to guess at that too much. 12 through 24 doesn't work. It costs the district too much money. We didn't hire any teachers, to the best of my knowledge, last year. We're not hiring any new teachers this year. I believe that's an accurate statement. Okay. And yet, one teacher did not return. There were special circumstances there. Did not return. We filled that her schedule with existing teachers. Okay. We have another teacher that's leaving this year. We haven't hired anyone to take that teacher's place. We're using existing teachers that we have to fill her schedule. We have to find a way to cut costs. And I think we have, looking at the high school, when you look at the middle school and K through 5, and you look at their requirements, their class sizes, at the middle school, you have classes 6, 7, and 8 with numbers of 33, 30, and 38. So you have 2 sections of all the core classes there. There's no way you can get by with just one. We're not going to put 30 kids in a classroom. We're not going to put 33 kids in a classroom. It's the same thing K through 5, 34, 42, 28, 31, 42, 42. You can't cut that back to one section. You're going to have 2 sections. You look at the high school, we could cut back sections. We haven't done it. I'm anxious to look at this year's schedule, but when I look at the minimum 12 to 24, I can pretty much guarantee we're probably going to have the same kind of a schedule this year, next year, that we have this year. Just my thoughts on what we're doing. I think we can cut costs. I think we may have to make a sincere and honest effort to do so. And if we can still do it this year, I think we should do it this year for next year. We have a March 1st deadline that we have to let teachers know if they're not coming back. If we don't, then there's money that it costs us. So if we were to make changes, it's going to cost us a little money. But we don't have to wait till we start enrolling kids to figure out how many sections we're going to have of each class. All we have to do is look at the information that we have right here in front of us. And we can make some, I believe, difficult but better decisions that will save the town's money. Thank you.
Comments, questions? Rebuttals?
The only thing that I'll say in response to that is, I guess you have to ask yourself what your long-term vision is for this school. And I'll just say it feels at a glance that maybe we have differing long-term visions for the school. And there were a lot of numbers that you tossed out there, but at the end, the message that I got is that you seem to want to structure the school to prepare for a spin down and a steady decline in enrollment. And it doesn't seem to pave the way for any opportunity for growth. There's also a variable in that data that maybe you didn't include, is that how many students are walking away from this school district as a result of a degradation in the overall quality of the education that they're being provided here. I can tell you I've spoken to 2 different families in the last month, specifically to 2 youngsters that would be entering freshmen in 8th grade, who specifically told me that they were going to Hamden because we lacked a variety of course selection in our school. That would be something not accounted for in your data. So I guess that would be what I would add, just rhetorically more than anything, is that what kind of school do we want for our kids long term? And for me, it's not one that just aligns our capacity to teach the number of kids that we have on a downward slope in line with enrollment. That doesn't, I'm not looking to build a one-room schoolhouse that gives them a bare bones education. I'm looking to provide them what, not even 3 years ago, this school was being highlighted to provide to students. We seem to be going in the reverse direction if we follow that sort of a course where we just align our priorities to student teacher ratios. That doesn't seem to accommodate the kids that are coming up within our school system who want a little bit more out of their education, want to go somewheres. That would be my thoughts on it.
The only, and that's why I said, I think we've hit that point where I think we're gonna have some pretty steady numbers there. Now, in terms of kids wanting to go here or go someplace else, okay, for whatever the reason.
No, it wasn't whatever the reason, it was specifically because of lack of course selection. These are kids that grew up on Mount Ephraim Road who would like to go to the school within their hometown, have chosen not to specifically because the value of the school that they had an option to go to has degraded. They looked forward to going to that school, parents chose not to because it is not as good as schools that are available around. Paid extra money for that reason. That it's not for whatever reason, it's for a very specific reason. And again, that's not accounted for in any of the analysis that you just put forward.
We offer several plans. We have a limited number of students here. We can't have course selections at a school with 500 kids or 1,000 kids would have. We just don't have the numbers for that. But we do offer a core curriculum. English, math, science, and social studies. In there, we offer algebra, geometry, algebra 2, trig, pre-calculus, calculus. The sciences, we offer E&E, forget what that's, physical science, biology, chemistry. I don't know if we've canceled physics or not. I don't know if we're offering that.
Yeah.
But you take a look at the classes that we do offer, and there's a wide variety there. And I can tell you, for the most part, anyone wanting to get a wide variety of classes, they can get them here. Whether they want to be a lobsterman, a mechanic, a college student. We have the courses here that these kids can take to meet their needs. Now, if you go to a school with more students in it, they might be able to offer a little bit extra because they have the numbers. We keep forgetting one thing in whatever we do in offering classes in that. It's in our policy manual. Several things written there. The last item, and this is what we have to also consider, that the board recognizes that achieving reasonable and equitable class enrollment for each teacher will be contingent upon the ongoing financial support of the district's communities. We have to take that into consideration. And if we're not able to offer all the classes with all the bells and whistles that other schools can offer, it's because we don't have the enrollment and we can't afford the tax dollars that it costs.
And I don't think anybody's looking to offer a school that offers all the bells and whistles, but I think we're looking to offer one that doesn't start to show signs of degradation in the curriculum that they're presently offering. And I think we're starting to receive that feedback that we're crossing that threshold, Bill, based on the conversations I'm having with staff, with parents, with students. And whether you agree that we offer the right blend and variety of classes right now, when a student tells me that they don't fit, when they went to look to see what we have available and made their own assessment that it's not good enough and made that choice, I have to heed that feedback and take it to heart. And that's what I'm relaying to you.
And I hope that you ask the simple question, what aren't we offering here that you can get someplace else? Because that's important. And we can make statements that, well, you're not offering what I want. What is it that you want? And I think we're gonna be hard pressed to find too many things that we're not offering.
I don't think that's the case. I think you can make that blanket statement, but I think you give the impression here that we seem to be offering this wide variety of classes that we're not offering, insinuating that this would be excessive and that we're overstaffed. And I don't think that the numbers, based on what we looked at and what we asked our superintendent to dig into, indicated that at all. In all of what you've laid out now several times, basically insinuating that there are additional teacher cuts that need to be made. You've yet to specifically cite where you feel those cuts should be made.
Simple.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what we tasked the superintendent to assess and recommend. That's our role, is to support the recommendation. And what I'm hearing you saying is, you're saying again, you feel like he's fallen short in making that recommendation.
Listen,
I mean, that's the impression I'm getting.
how long has Mr. Downing been on the job?
I would say a long enough time now that he knows his staff and how this has worked, and I think we've asked him to devote a considerable amount of time to assessing exactly this,
Okay.
within reason.
Okay, let's take a look at Algebra 1, 3 sections, not one of them meets the 12 minimum requirement. Why can't we cut that down to 2 sections and have both of them over the minimum requirements?
Bill, don't ask me, ask the superintendent.
You're the one asking the questions, I'm pointing it out.
Please.
And guess what? By pointing it out, he's hearing everything I'm having to say. And it's not the first time. I've had several discussions, expressed my concerns, pointing out places. I don't expect, I said the change of no multiple teachers in the classroom this year is significant. We need to keep moving in that direction. I look at biology, 4 sections of it. 3 of them don't meet the minimum 12 requirement. You're asking for specifics, I'm giving them to you.
So
I'm
what
not
teachers
saying
would you cut, Bill?
biology.
Openly, what sections and what spaces specifically would you cut?
Well, let's get the minimum up, we don't even do it with the 12 minimum that we have.
Because it's not as black and white as that.
No, and I understand that, and I've also.
You know that better than most, based on the conversations we've had, many leading up to this. It isn't just as black and white as meeting that minimum student threshold. But let Chris address this. He's addressed it before, and it's like we're saying now that we're not satisfied with that. Although we sat before him, accepted his recommended cuts already, and again, should be pointed out, he's recommended cuts, right?
Yes.
What I'm hearing you saying now is that that's not enough, and you want to dig deeper. And I'm telling you, it feels like we are starting to cross that threshold into a real degradation of programs.
Because we're only gonna offer 3 biology classes instead of 4?
But you say that very vague, like there isn't any content that's lost in that. And you and I both know that that is certainly not the case.
Biology is biology, whether we have 4 sections of it or 3. They're not losing anything. The only thing we're cutting back are the number of sections that we have. I've also said that there could be a scheduling problem that causes us to have to offer 4 sections. I understand that.
But it's a pretty significant part of this discussion, is it not? We had a pretty significant conversation about the fact that we needed to have at least one of those sections, if not another half of another, available to accommodate kids who are going back and forth to the tech school, right?
27 kids in the morning, 23 in the afternoon that go to the tech center. We can find ways to meet their needs.
Right, that's a very just broad, general statement that doesn't necessarily account for the complexities of the scheduling that is necessary to accommodate all those kids. So it's a little bit more complex than just saying that here.
And I haven't said that we need to make the changes right here and right now. What I am saying is that we've made one huge step. We don't have 4 classes with 9 teachers assigned to them with 40 students in the 4 classes total. We don't have multiple teachers in the classroom. That is huge. We have to keep moving in that direction. And when we move in that direction, we're not cutting the quality of the program. If we have sections that we don't need, and we can fit the kids into 3 sections rather than 4, let's do it. And I'm willing to take the time to look at it. I don't know a lot about scheduling, but I'm gonna learn a lot about it, and I can find out are we doing the best that we can. I have faith that we focus on this, we're gonna come up with some changes. We're still gonna offer the same quality education that we're offering now. We're just gonna use fewer sections to do it. That's all.
You was gonna answer?
Well, somebody wants to speak, I'm gonna hold the last
Mr.
card.
Curley?
I just have a comment as somebody, obviously I'm an outsider, I'm not involved with the school committee, but Mr. Nadell's comment that, you know, the curricula, the program, et cetera, is, you know, on the downhill side. I've been, followed Denise Dakin for a long time since she's been on the school committee. And one of the things that she's pounded home to me is the fact that when our school was so low and there were problems, there's been a tremendous effort to bring it up. And I think if I had asked her an hour ago, you know, how is our RSU graded and how's it doing, she would say it's been on the upswing. And I listened to you, and it sounds to me like, well, it's on the downslope. So I
You should ask
wonder.
teachers this year how they
Excuse me?
feel about that.
You should
ask
ask
teachers
teachers
this
this
No,
year.
wait a minute,
Go ahead,
okay,
go ahead,
because, you know, I guess we can all make statements that sometimes we don't really think before we make them. You made a comment a couple of weeks ago about, well, you know, in order to get Stockton even with a 0 increase, that it would take $95,000 more cuts, and that we, meaning Stockton, needs to understand that, you know, our kids were educated, and we should be willing to educate the kids out there today. And I think to me, that's a rude comment, simply because Stockton right now is paying, you can cut it any way you want. The state regulates your share, et cetera, but what we pay is like $16,000 a student. You can walk and talk to your people in Searsport and say, well, for our students, it's roughly figures out with our tax money $9,000. So there is an issue as far as money. But we think that we want our kids educated, but again, I'll go back to your comments a few minutes ago that, well, you're intimating that it's on the downslope. And I don't really think that, I mean, listen to Denise over a period of time, that I've been under the impression that this whole thing is going up. It's a better education kids are getting. So I'm puzzled by your remarks.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
There's a couple of things there. First of all, the matter of the comments that I made last week, I want to separate the two important pieces of that. There's the logistical monetary implications, which no doubt swing in favor of Searsport right now in terms of as a percentage of overall contribution. And we talked about that at length. It has a lot more to do with town assessments. Totally out of our control. Right, so you're right. That is monetarily uneven for the time being. No debate there. But the separate comments that I made were around this sense of kind of civic responsibility that generationally, historically, have been not an issue that seem to be a debate more and more each year that goes by. It is more of a, seems to be more of a real burden to the taxpayers than it was in previous generations to educate kids when they don't have kids in a school system. That has been my observation, based on comments and conversations that I've had with cross sections of people, both parents and retirees, okay? So that's where that feedback was based out of. But separately, when I said the comments that I made about us being on the downswing, of which I didn't use the term downswing, you
You
did, but
put down the slide or something. I don't know.
I would agree with that, because based on feedback that has been given to me this year, based on how we performed last year and this year, they felt the effects of a transition from, again, we think about staff cuts that we've made the last 2 years. In real short order, we've degraded the value of their ability to be able to kind of drive the curriculum that they worked hard to establish that was working for them, and we've removed resources, we've removed heads, and made it much more difficult for them to drive the curriculum that they were so proud of creating. That's the feedback that you get this year. That's not an indication of how they were performing 2-3 years ago when they were on the upswing. Now they're giving the feedback that we've cut a lot of folks and it's making it more difficult to have collaborative planning time and be able to integrate, for example, a literacy plan that is from K through 12. That's feedback directly from teachers. So that's where those comments are coming from. Not just sourced in arbitrarily making the comment that we're on the downslope when in reality we're on the upslope. I respect that you're challenging certainly what I'm saying, but I'm telling you this is based on feedback that I've been given directly from teachers, staff, and parents.
Well, I mean, so what do you attribute it to? I mean, you attributing it all to the fact that some teachers got cut? Or does this have anything to do with the fact that we're now 2 towns versus when you had, how many towns were, I don't know.
All important variables, but
So
this
wasn't there, didn't that have some bearing on this?
Sure, but more directly what they speak about is the fact that just within their same unit, which, again, that's not changed, that they have less teachers to share the load, yet are expected to drive the same curriculum. That's...
But if, I don't wanna, I don't wanna take up everybody's time, but if Mr. Cosmano's comment that there were classes with, say, an algebra class with 3 teachers, I guess, is that necessary?
I would say that's not necessary, but I don't think that that's specifically what Mr. Cosmos was talking about. I believe what he was referring to is specifically what he's referred to as a couple of classes where we had 4 different teachers from the 4 different elective sections that were assigned to one class with their respective responsibility being to address integrating that elective within that particular class. I believe the Sears Island class is probably one of those that you were referring to, right?
3 teachers, 7 kids, I believe.
Right, so the structure was, again, the broad implication is that it was maybe a basic elective with 3 teachers. That's not what we were talking about. We're talking about something a little bit more creative, which happened to have 3 teachers assigned to it, all 3 trying to integrate their respective disciplines to that particular course. Those were some of the creative classes that were imagined and brought to fruition with some of the leaps and bounds in curriculum that they were trying to make something different. And agreeably, maybe that was not the right time. Maybe we couldn't afford that. That was tabled for discussion, and the superintendent addressed it. But it doesn't necessarily carry over and imply that, again, for one algebra class, we have 3 different teachers teaching one set of less than 12 students. That's the point that I take issue with, is somehow the implication that that's what's excessively going on within this school district. And I'll let Mr. Downing speak to that. I don't think that that's the case at all.
Not excessively. I said we have 9 or 7 classes, 4 classes that are below the minimum. Okay, that's all I said. And I think we're addressing those things, and we can continue to work on it and continue to address it. One other little factor, 6 of the 7 middle school teachers, 25% of their time is spent in prep or planning. At the high school, 12.5% of their time is spent in prep.
And
The
so
only thing I'm familiar with, 8-period day, 5 classes, 1 prep, 1 duty assignment, and a lunch period. But we need, and it's stated in writing, we need this prep time. 25% prep time?
And the feedback that you get directly from teachers when you talk to them about that is that they don't get enough planning time. So, again, there's a lot of assumptions being made about it being, again, excessive. I'm using the word excessive, but when you talk to the teachers about what they need in order to integrate the curriculum, they need more planning time. So in my mind, if it's presently at 25% and they're saying, and the superintendent supports that, that's not excessive, Bill. And that's based on the superintendent's feedback and staff's interpretation of how much time they get. I respect the amount of experience that you have, but it is possible that teaching this present curriculum may require more planning time than what you may have been used to in your prior experience. That I'm not trying to draw any conclusions either way, but when you say to me, you feel like it's excessive, and I start sniffing around and asking the teachers directly, and they say, it's actually in fact not enough, look at all of what we need to integrate, I have to go with what the teachers are telling me, bring that to the superintendent, and he supports that. What else can we do?
Denise?
I would like to say first, I'd like to answer a couple things about Bill. You asked how long Chris had been on board. Officially, he'd be on board 1 year, July 1st.
And I know that. And that's
Second of
why-
all, what you said, Pete, is right on the money. Do I believe that we're on the upswing? I think we're up and coming, and I think people around us in the community should look aboard because they'll be coming to us. That's my belief. Third of all, I think the overstaff a little bit comes from as many special needs as we have in this district. Do I like it? No, I don't, but our percentage at 32%, 31% comes, people think we're overstaffed, but by state law, there's some that we can't stop because they need a EP or whatever it's called. I keep forgetting because there's so many different titles. I think Chris is doing a phenomenal job. Has he had enough time?
No.
We have asked him to do so many jobs. He has done an exceptional job, but has he been able to be in the field like he should to really tighten up like you want? He hasn't been able to, but we are looking to the future that he will be in the field, and he's even taken on more responsibility, but we're looking for the principal to ease in that area, so he can be the superintendent. Two, clean up a little bit more like we know we need.
If I may.
Nobody
Sorry.
wants to pay more taxes, me included, but I think we've done a good job that we have cut. Should we cut more? I'm not so sure at this point because we haven't even given the man a year, but he's already proved he's what we need. And I take everybody's comments and listen to them, but this is a man with a thing, but I agree with, I know we're on the upswing. And I don't know if we can afford that $42,000 extra, but this is the man that I'm putting my trust in, and he'll answer the questions about that, because I'm not in the thing.
And I just want to comment that I asked the question because I know he's only been here officially July 1st, it'll be 1 year.
Yeah.
I have nothing but respect and admiration for the man, and he knows that.
Mhm.
And I think we're moving in the right direction.
I do
And
too.
we have to keep moving in that direction. But I'm willing to bet you when we sit down and look at numbers, we can find ways to make cuts without hurting the program.
But my other concern is too, remember this, without the superintendent's agreement, we got an awful lot of kids coming back here in the fall. And I believe as a board, we asked him not to give any superintendent's agreements out. And I think you're gonna find out that our numbers are gonna go up significantly. And as far as anybody else going to another school, in my own opinion, we have it all here. And this is, if they're gonna live in these two towns, then this is where they should go to school. That's my own opinion.
Mr. Downing?
Thank you. First of all, the schedule question. When you look at scheduling at the high school level, different variables come in. One I can tell you that affects the schedule right off the bat is, and I've used these terms before, is singletons, doubletons, tripletons. That's sections you can have. And a lot of that is based on A, certified teachers, which you have to have, state requirement. And the second thing is the variety that the kids want in their schedule. And it's, yes, you've got the 4 basic classes of English, social studies, science, and math. Graduation requirements come in, the ability to go over to the tech center, the ability to take music, the ability to take foreign language, the ability to take some other classes. They are going to, in this size school, they are going to affect your enrollment. I do not agree with the philosophy of black and white when it comes to education. Education is gray matter all the way through. Students have to have the opportunity to experience different things. If I could take 4 sections and reduce them down to 3, I would do that, but I tell you right now, based on the school system that we have, that is not easy with the number of staff that we have left. I know that questions have been asked about 2 sections, K through 8. Well, when you look at a high school with math, 2 math teachers, what did we have to do? We had to go and grab a math teacher out of the middle school in order to cover a section. You know, there's a lot of things going on, and the other thing I do not look at, even though it affects the financial part, is I don't think you can look at numbers and say cost per students. Because when you do, all of a sudden you're taking those variables out. And if you're just taking the number of kids and base it against your budget, that's not the way the EPS formula works. That's not the way schools work. The other thing is, I know the teachers are not happy, for lack of a better term, because they now are teaching some courses that they haven't taught in the last 2 years, and they haven't had the additional prep time. One difference you see between the middle school and the high school that happened this year was that the middle school has a common planning time. It used to be that the high school had a common planning time. They no longer have that. They would like that. Can we work it into the schedule? I can't tell you that until all the kids are registered and the classes are broken up. So, you know, we, and I use the word we, and I do not use the word I, we are looking at a school system that is on the upswing, that needs to meet standards, and that's what we need to do. Do we have kids leaving our school system? Yes, we do. Do we have kids looking to get into our school system? Yes, we do. A lot of it depends on a lot of different variables, and I think when we talk that's what we have to look at in education. And the last thing I'll say is that, you know, there's a group of schools called the Small School Coalition in the state of Maine. And we are being targeted by our state government, including things at the top, that we cost the state too much. Those exact quotes that came from those that do not like small schools. That's what your whole consolidation was about, was to get rid of those small schools. Well, I'm sorry, but Maine was built on the small town type of school system. Maine is noted for what they call local control, and I think as soon as you allow local control to be taken out of the picture, which some in Augusta would like to see, Maine education will suffer, and that means the kids will suffer. And that's not why I'm in education. I told you that over and over again, that I'm here for the kids and I'll do what's best for the kids. Thank you.
And I'd just like to make a simple fact. If somebody can find a press release or a news report or a newspaper article that shows me another school district remotely close to us with an expenditure increase of less than 1%, I think we've done a damn good job. If we had not lost $125,000 in state revenue, we'd be sitting here heroes not having these discussions because everybody would have a negative tax increase. Again, something we can't control. People beside us, 3-4% expenditure increase. Rockland, Camden, Bangor, all in the 3 to 4% expenditure increase. We started this budget due to contractual obligations, health insurance cost of over $10.4 million. Administration cut this budget for over $300,000. I think we've done a damn good job. Yes, our per student cost is high. It's always been high. It was high when I was a student. There was 47 kids in my class. MSCD 56 in the last budget year. We had Frankfurt students, but our budget was over $11 million. Okay, that school up there cost us $700,000 to operate. Well, you do the quick math. 11 million minus 700,000 is still more than what we're expending 8 years later. With increased cost, health insurance benefits, salaries. Unless we want to start cutting programs, I think that's what we're looking at. We do not offer other programs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to get into an Ivy League school, you must have 4 years of French. Do we offer French 4 in RSU 20?
We do not.
What are those high-achieving students supposed to do? They have a choice. Find somewhere else to take it, or go to a school that offers that course.
They take world language, and we have 4 students in there right now.
Is that online
No, they take it in the class.
or in the class? But isn't there one that they are doing online?
Some do, they do Rosetta Stone.
Mm-hmm, that's what I meant.
So the validity of some of the statements that we don't offer programs that every student needs is true. Can we offer everyone? No, I understand that. But I think we've been responsible. I've said it, and I'll say it again, and I've said it already tonight. If we're gonna cut more from this budget, then we might as well decide we're gonna have core classes, reduce our requirements for graduation, and go back to, you've passed English, math, social studies, and science, here's a diploma. And I'm not ready to go there. Moving on to 12.1. I'll read this in a form of a motion and get a second so we can discuss and do the business. I move that the vote entitled "Vote to Call, Approve the Warrants for the Budget Meeting and the Validation Referendum and to Authorize the Notice of Amounts Adopted be approved in the form present to this meeting, and that a copy of said vote will be included in the minutes of this meeting. Vote to call and approve the warrants for the budget meeting and the validation referendum and to authorize the notice of the amounts adopted. The warrant for RSU Regional School Unit 20, the Regional School Unit Budget Meeting, presented to the meeting be approved at the Regional School Unit Budget Meeting to be called on May 24th, 2016 for the purpose of voting on the annual budget for the Regional School Unit for 2016-17 fiscal year. That the warrant and notice of election for the RSU Regional School Unit Budget Validation Referendum presented to the meeting to be approved, and that the Regional School Unit Budget Validation Referendum be called for June 14th of 2016 for the purpose of approving the budget adopted at the Regional School Unit Budget Meeting for the 2016-17 fiscal year in consideration whether to continue the budget validation referendum process, and that the form of notice of the amounts adopted at the budget meeting presented to this meeting be approved, and that the superintendent of schools of our regional school unit be authorized and directed to complete said notice, including by adding the amounts approved by the voters for each expenditure category and the total school budget summary expenditure amount, all in accordance with the regional school unit budget meeting on May 24th, 2016, and to cause copies of said notice as completed to be delivered to municipal clerks of each municipality of regional school unit for posting at all polling places for June 14th, 2016 regional school unit budget validation referendum. And I read that as a motion.
Second.
Can you rewind and replay, George? I'm not reading it again. Questions, comments? I'll just remind everybody that when you sign these warrants, you must use black ink and you must sign on the same exact line every time, or they are not valid.
Well, at least there's not 9.
No, there's still 20 though. So I suggest we start at one end. Get a call for a vote first.
Right.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
We'll start here.
Okay, there's that one. There's that one. There's that.
Now keep them all started on one
Maybe
end.
I'll see you tomorrow.
No, maybe.
Oh,
Let's start all on one end.
since I'm not actually going to work tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm just afraid that they'll get crossed over and we'll start with one packet and
Okay, all packets.
all packets.
All right, so you're gonna sign on line 1.
Here,
And here.
make sure you sign it.
Chris.
I like
Both.
signs on the record.
Both lines?
I've got what came my way.
Put them right there in the box.
Sounds good anyway.
Okay, moving on, 12.2, consideration of use of contingency for Northport.
Right,
Interested to hear this.
In the withdrawal agreement, there are a couple, it's under, I don't have the withdrawal agreement with me, mistake on my part. There are two I believe it's the Sweetser building and the,
Robinson,
is it-
Sweetser Building and the roof and the furnace at the Robinson School.
okay. And by
16B,
And RSU 71 pays RSU 20, the percentage, and then,
74,000 something, and then we
Correct.
pay Northport their percentage, which is
Correct.
24,000.
Correct.
Correct.
and when you add that together, it comes to $24,120.74. And the auditor said that in order to use the contingency funds, which is where it was put into the budget, you need a motion at the board level. So,
I just have a quick question.
Yep.
I thought that was to be paid 30 days after the audit was complete, per
No.
withdrawal agreement.
Apparently those particular paragraphs did not specify, because Judy Lucarelli actually brought that to our attention, that it's not specified in there that it has to wait. It's the audit, it's the fund balance that goes 30 days after the audit. The split of the fund balance, but not these funds. We're very close to the audit. The audit's supposed to come out in a few days, and within 30 days or less, we will be all settled up. So in order to access these funds to pay Northport, it was budgeted under the contingency line in the,
In the 15-16 budget,
yes, in the current budget. It's right there, the exact amount.
as was the revenue, correct?
And the revenue's in there as well, the 74,000, yep.
So do you need me to,
read that motion.
consideration of approval to use the contingency funds to make a, is that just payment?
Payment.
Payment in the amount of $24,120.74 per the withdrawal agreement with Northport. I read that as form as a motion.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Date and time of next board meeting should be May 10th, 2016. Finance Committee at 5 o'clock, regular board meeting 6:30 at Union Hall. Finance Committee will be at central office as usual,
At 5?
at 5. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you.